Hi guys, welcome to another edition of Nikola Studies Chess with one and only international master Elisabeth Paehtz.
Hello.
Anyway, so it's very good to see you guys here. Thank you for joining me on this lovely Wednesday morning. Hey Asya, thank you, and hey Bunkenator, it's very good to see you. So, what do we have for today, Elisabeth?
So I would start for today with a very nice warm up. Then we will go a little bit into the defending section, then into the dynamic section. And then if there's still some more time, we will go into other positional things, which I don't want to mention. Otherwise, it might be too easy.
Okay, all right. So in this position, I presume I'm white.
You are white, yes. And as a small warning, this position is much more tricky than it seems at the first glance.
Okay, thank you for the warning. All right, so I have two checks, one of which is actually I have three checks.
Yes.
I have a check on e7, with a bishop, which we can eliminate immediately. I have check on d6, which is actually a reasonable candidate move, at least at first glance. I have also check on g7, which I think we should put in our pocket and also consider it a candidate move. I actually have several captures. I have a capture on a5 with either the bishop or the queen. I have a capture of f7 and then on h7 with the g6 pawn. I can also capture the knight on a8.
8, yes. And
that's, I think. Hey, Hedgehog, my friend, it's very good to see you here. Thank you. And thank you, Bunkenator. Hey, Kimi, 321456. It's very good to see you. Welcome, guys. All right.
So I mean, from everything you mentioned, like those are captures and checks. But as you know, sometimes in kind of moments, you should not only consider those as candidate moves, but also moves, for example, like which cause a threat or even are prophylactical.
Yeah, I don't see any pawn challenges because we only have one pawn and that pawn is already challenging. Now, let me look at the zen of this position. We are 2 pawns down, but we have an attack and we also have a potentially very strong pawn on g6. We also can capture the knight on a8, at which point we are, we're ahead of material, but I don't think that's a primary consideration in this position. So, okay. All right, so let me see here. If we capture on a8, there is a check on e6, which needs to... Hey, Lally, thank you. Very, very, very kind of you to say that. I think that's a fair assessment of the match. I appreciate that. Thank you, Corky. Appreciate that greatly. I'm going to have an addition. My Monday is Nikola's best losses is going to be dedicated to match against Sergey. So I'm actually looking forward to that. On Sunday, I'm playing a match against Alessia, which is going to be bullet games. So I don't expect there will be very many best losses there. There will be very many bad losses, but that's a separate story. Anyway, all right. Well, let's see this position that Lizzie has thrown at me. So so we basically need to find a sequence that may or may not begin with a check.
Well, the thing is, like, I mean, what we can start with, just to be in our general way of calculating quicker, try to rule out as many candidate moves as possible. And actually here in this position, some of those you mentioned, you could actually rule out on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah, taking on f7 is obviously not a good move. Taking on h7 is probably not a good move because we lose the bishop on the immediately. So we have to counter two threats that black has in this position. The strength of our position is that we are threatening mate, but that threatening with the mate is predicated on the king being on f6. And if black gives a check on e6, I mean, which it actually cannot do immediately, it's it's not to our advantage. We also need to defend the bishop on d8.
Yes.
So, but also needs to be noted that black is in a kind of, I don't want to say zugzwang, but it's in an interesting position that the knight cannot move. King barely cannot move. And the queen, queen actually can capture the bishop, but outside of that's, yeah. E77 CW, to je moja greška, izvinjavam se, to je ono tajpo što bi se reklo. Popravili smo to čim smo videli. Hey, backhouse player, very good, thank you. I actually do not speak Russian. I can read Russian, but I cannot speak. All right, so what is interesting in this position?
Basically, if you sum it up, there is a problem always about the check on e6, right?
Yes.
There is a problem about the hanging bishop on d8.
Yes.
On the other hand, we have one big trump card, which is the pawn on g6, and the king is very weak.
Correct.
I mean, to get a draw in this position for white should in any case never be a problem. No. But obviously, we should aim for more because, okay, the pieces are misplaced, but mainly the king on f8 and your trump card on g6 should be game changers. From all the candidate moves you mentioned, basically the only one left is queen d6 check.
Correct.
Because any other captures would either result in a check on e6, then g6 is falling and you will never be able to win again.
Yep.
And other moves like normal capture, like g7 check, for example, will also not help you much. So if queen d6 check doesn't help you in improving your position, you should obviously check for other candidate moves you didn't consider yet. And in chess, there is a very wise phrase saying the threat is stronger than the execution.
Yeah.
And this phrase is put often for a good reason.
Yeah. And just I have one more interesting motive to observe. If if we were to take the queens out, taking on h7 immediately wins.
That's true.
Okay. Zugzwang motives, I think, are more or less out because this pawn can basically keep moving.
Don't be so sure about that, but this is coming in a later stage of this game.
Yeah. Yes, Sleepy Mario, you're encouraged to offer solutions to the problem. The chat is very highly encouraged to participate. I will make sure that I pay. I mean, I think Lizzie is paying more attention to chat than I am. I'll try to ignore them. Thank you, Roy71, for the follow. And Dr. Swishansuk, thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you. All right, so, all right. So how do we improve this position?
Moves with a threat are maybe useful here as well.
All right, so So here is one potential thought, just a thought here. All right. And I'm going to think aloud, so bear with me. This is actually a very interesting position. Let's assume we give a check on d6 here. And there is only one move, which is king g8. We take on h7, and black really needs to play king h8, because if black plays takes the pawn, we're going to give a check on h2, and then check on g3, and next move is mate.
Yes, very well spot. So king h8.
So the question here is, after we do this, which actually looks like a rather interesting sequence, red Skyfall, it's white. We're playing as white. This is white wins. If I take on h7 first, black just takes on d8 with the bishop, unfortunately. So that sequence doesn't really work, sadly. Okay. All right. So are we still winning after we put the black king on
h8?
On h8.
Well, basically what you have to think, after the king is on h8, do you have any useful mating patterns? And the only mating square is g7.
Yes.
But this one you can never do, because you have to take care of e6 square.
Yes, and the d8 bishop.
And you have too many things to solve at once, which gives you a hint that this is the wrong direction.
Yeah. And I cannot play king f6, because if play king f6, then king f5, because that doesn't work. Okay, so that's a red herring.
So we can exclude queen d6, and unfortunately we have to look for new candidate moves.
Yeah. Thank you, Red Skyfall. Thank you for the follow. Greatly appreciated. All right. All right. So what, I'm actually gonna speak. Hey, Dr. Shalpa, it's very good. It's very good to see you. Good morning. Thank you for being here. So let me just look here. Playing g7, okay, which is a candidate move. Queen g8, and I'm not seeing a way for us to make progress.
Nope, because you're blocking the white squares, and the white squares to block would result, if there's no back rank mate, there's no mate, and you will not get the queen off the back rank.
Yeah. Just for the sake of, if I take on a5, the queens get exchange, and I'm not. Actually, hold on a second. So if I take on a5, all right, so that doesn't work either.
If you take on a5, I can always take on g6. It will never be mate again. And you don't have time to take on a8, because I have just too many checks.
Yeah. All right. So let's. But so we need to counter pawn takes. So there is only one more field on the board in which the bishop is protected and e6 is defended, right? And that's queen c8.
Yes.
So that's basically what we are looking for. Let me just see. So the forcing sequence, let's assume there is a capture. We're going to give a check on e7 and we're going to grab the queen. So
Yes.
that's the obvious choice.
Very good.
But is it a solution? I'm not so sure.
Okay, you have to find the best defending move after queen c8, but this move already like gives you, of course, a new passage to go for and to analyze.
So I'm pretty sure that queen c8 should be the first move, right?
Yes, it is.
And the best defense is not to take the pawn.
Yes, I will not give you the queen.
No. And the move that defends the queen, and it's a little nasty, is deflection, is knight c7. Right. And the issue here is we have, if we take on h7, which is a natural, obviously any moves associating with capturing the queen, and if we take it with the queen, then it's queen e6, and there is no mate, and if we capture with we're gonna blunder it. We want to play Bottas gambit.
Okay, always first watch out for checks, Nikola, before we go into the capture section. So what checks do we have after knight c7?
We have, you mean as white?
Yes.
We have a check on g7.
Which is probably not bringing you so much because you may need this pawn for the white squares.
And we have check on e7 that is countered by this. So that's the difference. Gotcha.
And now how white is winning?
Now we take on h. Now we can actually take on, we can take the knight, but we can also take on h7, and now the mating pattern actually works.
Wait, after taking on h7, I have king h8, but what you can take now for free?
I can take
the queen
knight.
Is no what? If you take the knight, then I can probably even defend, but you win in one spot.
No. Let me look at the sequence. So basically, the move here is bishop to e7, king g8.
Yeah.
Now, if we take the queen, it's a check.
Yep.
So we can't do that. We can take the knight.
But then I take on g6.
Then I take on a g6.
What checks do you have? Yeah.
So there is a crashing move here that I'm not seeing. What is it?
I mean, what are the checks you have? You have queen takes e8, you have g takes h6, h7, and g takes f7. These three checks you have. So one of the checks is making...
the queen is pinned, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So gf7 then wins. Yeah.
Yeah, so knight c7, you have to rule out.
Hello, Lila. Welcome to the stream. It's very good to see you. Okay, so that eliminates knight c7 as the candidate move, right?
Yes.
So, thank you, Lila. Appreciate that. All right, so what else do we have here? Queen e6. We don't have any meaningful checks that I can see. Queen e6 is actually queen e6. Queen e6 fails to queen e6 takes, and the pawn promotes. Queen c6 is hopeless. Queen e7 is hopeless. Oh, thank you, Lila, for the sub. Very greatly appreciated. Thank you, Lila. And if there is a mod in chat, please let's give Lila a shout out. Okay. Okay.
So what is left? If the threat is bishop e7, check.
Yeah. And knight c7, it doesn't save us.
So imagine that bishop e7 is not a check.
No, yeah, no, I understand that. So basically, if we go to, so it's king g8 is the candidate move. The knight doesn't really, actually knight can move, but knight b6 has the same problem. So, wow, this is actually a more interesting position than it looks. So it's king g8.
Is only move.
The only move.
And now you have to find a pattern.
Yeah, okay. All right. Taking on h7, it's again the same problem because king h8, and I don't. If the pawn wasn't on f7, we would be able to play king g6, and then we would be threatening the mate, but on the end it will be no check, so that doesn't work. Okay. But now, with the king on h8, a discovered check would win us the queen, right? All right, so king g8 takes king h8. Oh, geez. King g5. Does that
queen e5 check?
King g5.
Yeah, queen e5 check.
Yeah, that's the problem. Because I was kind of hoping you would give a check here, in which case I can play king h6. Actually, can I still play king h6? Yeah, I can play king h6. Yeah, okay. So queen e5, king g6.
King h6, but then I have queen queen g7.
You have king, and if you give me a check on h
g7.
Yeah, that defeats that line. I was hoping if you give a check on h2, I can just uncover and block and give a check, but that doesn't work. All right, but
look for a totally different idea.
Okay. So we're basically, yeah, I think we need to abandon that whole sequence. Okay. All right, so black plays king g8 in this position. All right. We cannot sacrifice. All right, so here is another thing to consider. Oh, we lost Elisabeth. Okay, so all right. Well, while I'm establishing connection with Elisabeth, just bear with me. Okay, no worries. We'll wait for you to connect. In the meantime, we're going to look at this position. All right, guys. So what are you thinking? Kimi, puno pozdrava, hvala. B7. Yeah, but that we're Dr. Shalpe if we do that. Okay.
Sorry.
No worries. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Sorry.
It's fine.
Okay.
All good. All right.
Okay.
All right. So King G8.
So after King G8, let's assume, well, we distract the queen. Because if we distract the queen, then F7 is hanging, and there are a lot of mating patterns suddenly arising.
Yes.
So how could we consider that? I mean, or what kind of candidate moves do we have in order to distract the queen?
Okay. All right. We have to deflect the queen, I presume, with the queen, right?
Well, either with the queen or basically indirectly with the bishop.
Yeah. All right. So okay, let me think for a second. The problem with capturing the oh Jesus. All right. So all right. So Fanti 1 is basically saying that we can play that suggests bishop c7, queen c8, takes, and then king h8, and then bishop e5, which is threatening mate. But the problem is that then, you know, the queen e6 and black is going to win.
Oh, wait. First of all, after bishop c7, queen takes c8.
Yeah.
She takes f7 check.
Mm-hmm.
King h8 and bishop e5. Queen e6 would result into king takes e6 with a countermate.
Yeah, gotcha. So that actually looks like a good sequence.
But let me ask something to Fanti. What is the difference between bishop c7, bishop b6, and bishop takes a5?
Okay. Hey, Adam, Onion, Dice. It's very good to see you. Welcome to. Thank you for joining the stream.
Because we have three candidate moves: bishop c7, bishop b6, and bishop a5.
Yeah, the problem with bishop c7 is knight c7, right?
Well, I mean, that's would be one thing.
So we basically, if we're playing this line, because bishop, all right, so let me just draw the arrow. So king g8, bishop c7, knight c7, right? The knight defends the queen. So we can't do that. We can play bishop b6. Hey Galactic Frog, thank you for joining us. And we lost Lizzie again. Boy, guys, this position is brutal. All right. Okay. All right, so I'm actually gonna make some moves on the board here. Yeah, the on dice, it's a very complicated position.
So, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Welcome back.
Welcome
Hello. Hey, Alessia. Thank you for the big raid for a party 130. Thank you. I'm sorry to hear that you lost the match, but I'm looking forward to your Instagram post because that promises to be epic. Big shout out to Alessia. Thank you. Alessia Santeramo is a former Italian champion, current finalist of the Italian Championship, and a great streamer and a great friend. Welcome, Alessia. Thank you for the raid. The Raiders, this is my weekly lesson with Elisabeth, one and only international master Elisabeth Paehtz, who threw a doozy of a position at us. They've been struggling for the past almost half an hour. It's really a tough position to handle. Okay, so
let's first, before we go further into calculation, let's figure out the difference between bishop b6 and bishop takes a5, because that would help us to find the right track.
Okay. All right. If we play bishop b6, all right. So we have eliminated bishop c7 because that fails to knight c7, right? So
wait, Nikola, you do the same kind of thinking process mistake you did before. The queen on e8 is pinned.
Correct.
So bishop c7, knight takes c7 is losing on the spot.
It's losing with take on f7. Yes, I understand that. Okay. All right. So what is the difference? Okay. Yeah, we kind of went there. So Stravarejit, I liked that line too. So what is the difference? The difference here is that if we play, say, bishop a5, queen is on c8, and we do not have bishop c3.
Yes, so this one we can rule out.
Yes. Bishop on b6 is fails because after gf7 we take we are black can play king f8, and we don't have a mate on c5 because queen defends the mate.
It's very good. So bishop c7 is the move to check.
So we need to play bishop c7, and I got seduced, and that's basically the solution. Thank you. Yeah. All right.
I have some upsetting news for you, Nikola. We are still far away from the solution.
Okay. Okay.
But we are on the right road.
All right. Thanks, Lizzie. Face Super GM on Tuesday, and then have a doozy of a study for warm-up, mind you, on Wednesday. Okay. Thanks. All right. So you are telling me that there is a defensive resource here. Oh, what's the defensive resource? Okay, if I am black, what's my answer? So the line here, right? To take on f7, right?
Yes.
Take on f7 and king f8, bishop this, king f8, bishop d6 is mate.
Yes.
If king Oh, come on.
If king h8, bishop e5, the question
Is okay.
is how can black still defend?
Okay. All right. So in that particular position, black has one check. It has a check on d8. That check on d8 fails to king f7 mate.
King f5 mate, because there's a pawn on f7.
Yeah, sorry, king f5 mate. If black plays, all right. So that's one check. There is no check on along the c file because that's blocked. There is a queen a6 check, which is the same problem. Okay. So basically, black needs to find... but what black can do in that position is play something along the lines of h5. Right.
Well, but if you move the pawn from the h file, there's king g6 mate.
Yep, I see that. So, but we have queen. Yeah, we have queen f8.
Queen f8 is mate in 2.
Mate in 2. Ah, I see. It's queen e6, queen g7 promotes. Okay.
Yep. We have to attack the bishop on e5, otherwise we can resign on the spot.
Okay. All right, so none of the checks work, so we can get queen back to e8.
But then I can capture the queen on e8 and it's a mate.
I am sorry.
We need the square which attacks the bishop and blocks f8 promotion.
Yeah, which is queen c5.
Yes, queen c5, only move.
All right.
So now after queen c5, what white has to do?
All right. Okay, so basically we need to find a place where black queen, which is on c5, cannot defend f8 and attack the bishop, and that square doesn't exist.
Yes, but this position, I just give a hint because otherwise it would be just too hard. Like there will be a sequence of Zugzwang involved.
Ah, okay. That's...
So that's why Fanti bishop a1 is far from obvious.
Okay.
You have two candidate moves here. You have to understand the difference between bishop a1 and bishop b2.
Okay. On a bishop b2, we can play queen b4, which means we can retreat backwards.
Well, if bishop queen b4, I mean, I can always move my king and then promote on f8 with a mate.
Okay. All right. So what?
Well, the question is how many squares does the white king have currently with the queen on c5?
Okay. Okay. It has, with the queen on c5 and bishop on e5,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it has G5, F5,
Mm-hmm.
and E6,
6. Yes, but
and
we know.
E7. Oh, not with queen on
Yep.
C5. Okay, so 3 squares.
No. Yes, but the bishop has to move, and only E6 square is left. So what is black's next move?
Black's move after queen C5.
After queen C5, the bishop goes to B2 or A1, let's say. What is the only move for black if E6 is the only square left?
Okay, so can't we go to queen? Oh, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. We need to find a position for black that okay, all right. The difference in the position is that now the bishop is not falling with a check.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. All right. So we have. Let me just summarize this for myself. We have taken on c8. We have played bishop e5. We have played queen c5, and we have finally played bishop a1.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the pawn is on f7 and king is on h8.
Mm-hmm. And white has a threat of king E6 with a mate.
Yes. And basically any king move is a mate, right?
Well, there's only one king move in this position, which is king E6.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So how can we? All right. All right. So queen c5, queen a3. Pretty frustrating endgame. Thank you, Lizzie.
No, okay, I will help you. I mean, the queen
no.
on C,
No,
the queen on
that's
C, yeah, okay. I just meant the queen on C5 is protecting already important squares, but you have one more piece on the board for black.
yeah. I have the knight.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and knight can give a check on e6, so I can play knight c7.
Yes, knight C7. And now, okay, the question is, imagine there's no A pawn, and it is black to move. What would black do?
Okay. So a5 pawn's purpose is to gotcha.
You understand diesen Zug zwar.
Yeah. 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 I see this.
So now you have to understand how to start with bishop b2 or with bishop a1.
Okay. We basically want to end in a position in which it's all right. In which queen is in c5, knight is on c7, bishop is in a1, and it's black's move.
And there's no more pawn on a5, or the pawn is on a2.
Okay. So we basically need to figure out how we can triangulate black here, right? Okay. Fair enough. Queen is on c5.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to play. We need to start to play with the bishop b2.
Yes, bishop b2. So after bishop b2, knight c7, bishop a1,
a1,
a4, bishop b2,
and we go back and
a3.
forth. Yeah.
Yes, so
And
that
we
is
go back and forth, and that's the solution. Jesus.
that's the solution. Yeah. Maybe sorry, I thought actually, you know, I solved this exercise myself in 5 minutes. So I thought like, okay, I mean, it's a nice exercise because of the different patterns, you know.
No, it's a beautiful exercise. Thank you. All right. So bishop b2. Okay. And then we play bishop a1, and eventually black is going to run out of moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, he can give one more check here, but
Yeah.
here, here, and here, but this doesn't matter
Wow.
as it's a mate finally.
All right. That's a great one. Okay, you warned. I mean,
I warned you.
you warned. I was forewarned. Chat.
Yeah.
All right, that's a cool one. Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay. All right. So let's go
Next.
to the defending section.
Okay.
Next. Okay, in the next one you have a 33% hitting chance.
Okay.
So oh wait, I have to copy the fan. I forgot about that. Always.
All right. No worries. Take your time.
So okay. Okay, you're black in this position.
Okay.
And
thank you. Thank you, David ET4. But it's thank you for the follow. Very greatly appreciated. All right, come in. I'm black.
So, no, yes, you're black and you have to take an important decision. Rook c8, king a7, or king c7.
Okay. We have eliminated bishop d8, right? Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm in check. Thank you, Philip101. Thank you for the follow. Very greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. All right, so all right. So all right. Problem with rook c8 is obviously this is no checks, captures, or any, because there are no captures and there are no checks. We are in check. So if we play rook c8, just maniac, puno pozdrava, hvala. We are, I mean, there is a sequence in which white takes on d6 if he can remove this bishop. Okay, and we're in trouble.
Okay, I mean, the first question before you look further, I mean, we have a different colored bishop ending, and usually the thing is, since the queens and the rooks are on the board with different colored bishops, it is a very dynamical issue.
Yes.
So we have to understand the side who gets active first is clearly ruling.
Yeah.
So that's why, I mean, like, you should consider whatever move you do, where you get more passive, you have to take into consideration if you decide to go the passive way, then maybe white, here in this case, can take over the initiative.
Yeah.
And this is also something which may help you in order to find the right move from those three options.
Yeah, I agree. Our rook on c5 is actually fairly active. And just instead of calculating moves, let me think in terms of general principles. General principles is the rook c5 is probably... oh, thank you, Botas Live. Thank you for raiding for a party of two. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you, my friend. Okay, Rook c5 is actually very well placed. We have a concrete threat. If we go to a7, king is more secure, but we're exposing ourselves to a potential pin, but that pin cannot be taken taking advantage from white, at least not that I can say. Hey, thank you, Vlad. Thank you for raiding for the party of 7. That's very greatly appreciated. It's very good to see Vlad streaming again. Thank you, Vlad. I'm in the middle of my weekly lesson with one and only international master, Elisabeth. So, if I go to c7, right, it's not immediately obvious how white can take advantage of it. But, there is a potential threat on c8, maybe a sequence like bishop e6 and stuff. So that's number one. Number two, so that doesn't look very appealing. What also doesn't look very appealing is after rook c8, white can play something along the lines of queen e4, and there are some interesting checks with this bishop and queen. So I don't like rook c8. Bishop d8 pins the bishop, and bishop is actually very well placed on f6. So the natural move is to play king a7, and what is the problem with king a7? The problem with king a7 is, all right, there is this nice little threat, but that threat basically applies. Wow, okay. So, okay, it's all right. So if we play king c7 after this, we're in trouble. Right. So
we are in trouble after which move?
Queen h7, then we can play, maybe black can play king g7. Right.
Bishop g7. Queen g7 is losing maybe.
Okay.
But bishop g7 is good enough because we have an attack on d5 and we have queen f6 as a threat. And b2 is also a shaky point in white's camp.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't be worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the main difference between, king a7 appears as a very natural move.
Mm-hmm.
And you wouldn't be showing me this position if king a7 would work.
That's a nice psychological point,
yeah.
But really good. That's actually true.
All right, so what is the sequence that makes king a7 a losing move? That's the real question. All right. Okay.
Black resigns after 2 moves.
Yeah. So what is the problem? All right, so all right. And why can't I see it? Jesus, Nikola. Hey, Mass Refuge. Thank you for a big raid.
Okay, I mean, first of all, you learned all captures, all checks and all captures. What checks do I have after King A7?
Let's be disciplined. Thank you, Mass Refuge. It's very good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining. Raiders, this is my weekly stream with one and only international master Elisabeth Paehtz, who is about to, let me put it this way: if we Elizabeth, Lizzie, and I were playing Among Us, and she was an imposter, I would probably be first to get killed. So, anyway, all right. I'm sorry. Let me be a little bit disciplined. All right. So King A7 is the move played, and Black loses in white. Yes, I see it. All right. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's a elementary tactic. It's Rook A8, Queen A6. Okay, fair enough.
Okay, but one more question. After Rook A8, obviously I will not capture on A8. I will play King B6.
Okay. And fair enough.
What is the problem with King B6?
All right. So we are done. So King A7, Rook A8, Queen B6. And what is immediately winning here? It's Queen B3 is a check. Rook B5. Okay, so that doesn't work. What else does Black have? Rook A6 doesn't work. Rook Queen B. All right. So what checks do we have after Rook after King is on B6? We have a check on A6, doesn't work. We have a check on
B3, and it doesn't work.
B3, that doesn't work either. But the Black King is in deep trouble. And how do we take advantage of its position?
Okay, next thing after checks are captures. What are the captures after King B7?
We have threats. We can attack the highest value piece we can threaten is the Rook, and we can play B4. The problem with B4,
I can play Queen takes D5 check.
Yeah, and that doesn't work. So what we need is, because Bishop is under attack, we need to find a Bishop move. All right. So can we play? Yeah, we can play Bishop B7, right?
Yes, and basically Black resign. Yes, Black resign.
Right. Okay.
Because there is no defense.
Yeah.
I mean, against this and this.
Yeah.
Even Rook B5 is going to be mated or losing somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be somehow made.
Yeah, that's
I'm sure.
A
I know
sequence.
Queens. Yeah.
Okay. I wish one of these days being able to see this instantaneously would be part of my ability to play. All right. Not there yet, guys.
Okay, I mean, like the problem about Rook C8 is simply Rook E6. For example, like Bishop E5 and now Queen B3.
Yeah.
And well, you don't have good moves. For example, this you have Rook G6, and okay, White clearly takes the initiative. So this doesn't work. And okay, King C7, if for example, like Bishop E6, this is a bad move because of Queen E5. You have one check, but then you run out of checks, and B2 is under attack, and suddenly it's Black who's attacking.
Yeah. Okay, so
King C7 was a move which basically gives Black equalization.
Okay.
Or at least equal chances, because now b2 is even weaker than b7 because the white bishop has to react. If bishop b3, for example, there are even ideas like d5 to put that bishop down.
Yeah.
Okay, that was about
so
defense.
basically this was about why king a7 doesn't work.
Well, in the game, actually, king a7 was played. And if you remember, there was some kind of high-level game where some similar motif was happening with king h7, but I don't remember if it was Carlsen or Aronian or Kramnik, but it happened this year. So this is a motif even on high level. They plunder.
Okay.
Okay, now let's go into, I don't want to torture you so much today because I have quite difficult things.
That's fine. Let me put it this way. That's how we learn, by torturing ourselves. And also, I think one of the huge appeals of these coaching streams, I learned that when I was doing this with Anna Rudolph, is that, being tortured is what most people come here to watch. So that's fine. All right. I presume I'm white and I'm trying to save the endgame.
Yes, you have to save the endgame. Yes. And here actually knowledge helps a bit.
Okay, so all right. Hey, Nightfox 700, thank you for the follow. Greatly appreciate it. Okay. All right, so this g4 is basically dead.
It's white to move here.
Yeah. All right, so let's think for a second. I actually don't know this position. All right. So let's see here. Yeah, whom to move is, it's white to move and draw, right?
Otherwise, the exercise makes no point if it's not a draw.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I wish smashy, but not true. Okay. So the thing here is that I presume after king e2, king f4, king f2, the problem with this position is that position with which this pawn has fallen, and there is a king g1, if black can get the king to g3, plays h3, and then king f2, I am okay. All right, so and playing g3 in this position doesn't seem to work. And the question I have is...
Wait, Nikola.
No.
Yes.
I'm just thinking.
Okay.
Thinking. Actually, yeah, that position is actually drawn. Because after f2, king f2, king h2, the only tempo move is g3, and that's stalemate. Yeah, I got this, Elisabeth. It's g3.
Yes.
Yeah, it's g3.
I mean, that's why I wanted to tell you, don't rule out things too quickly. Also, like, just, I mean, the kind of stuff like for the opposition, for people to understand. I mean, there's a very easy winning plan. It's connected with king f4, this and g3.
Yeah.
Then you go at some point to the corner, and I will sacrifice this pawn, and then I will mate you with g2. So this is a sequence which is quite known. Yeah. I mean, I can play it for the chat, but I know what, I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, but okay, let's see. G3, I will start with h takes
all right,
g3. What are the next moves?
Okay, I am going to play king g2.
Yes, king f4.
Okay, king g1.
King G1.
Oh, you want me to...
Okay, but King G1, I mean, like, this is also like a lost endgame because I have a
All right.
extra move.
I'm sorry. Actually, the pawn is on G3.
Yes.
And your king is on H3.
You mean like after G3? H takes G3, King G2, King F4, King G1 is losing.
When you give me the check on G2, King G1, you play G4. Actually, I understand the king H3 is drawing, but can we play this out?
Yes, of course, because you missed a pattern here, actually.
Okay. All right.
So you said King G1, yeah?
Yeah.
I take.
Okay. You take, I play King G2.
You go King G2?
Mm-hmm.
I go...
because you are going to go on to H5.
Right.
Yeah, my bad.
So
King H3 draws. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, okay, 1 second.
I think that's actually draws now.
No. This, and this.
Gotcha.
You always lose this. That's why King G1 is not making anything.
My bad. Thank you.
Just to see this pattern. So you get that King H3, right?
Yeah.
Okay, after King H3, I played G2.
Okay, I'm going to take on G2.
Okay, King takes G4 and you're losing on the spot.
Okay, sorry. No, sorry. I'm going to play a King H2.
Very important. Mm-hmm. So now, of course, after King H2, yes, this is drawn now, of course. Then
Nikola, need to be careful in positions like this. Okay, very good.
I mean, like here, the opposition rules always something. But okay, it's not over yet. Because after G3, I have, after G3, I have H3.
Okay, then, and I cannot play King E2, because if I maintain the opposition, well, okay. So, G3, H3, King G1.
I mean, this is your move or this is your thought?
Good point. If I let you get to F3, you're going to capture the pawn on G4 first, and then I'm in trouble. Okay, fair enough. All right, so G3, H3, King F2.
Yes, King F2 makes a difference. Yeah. That's why, I mean, those are the mine squares or the explosion squares. I don't know how you call them in English. You call them in German Minenfelder, so mine squares. So that's why important not to go this move, because you will be in Zugzwang and losing.
Yep.
But King F2 makes a difference.
All right. In other words, the point of this exercise is that opposition ain't everything.
I mean, opposition is one thing, and the mind squares.
Okay.
Yes.
Can we play a couple of these lines for chat, because I think we lost them.
Yes. So okay, let's start. I mean, I can play them out. So the point is, after G3, H takes G3, King G2, King F4. Why King H3 is the only thing, because after King F3 it's a stalemate. Yep. And here, after King H3, G2, we cannot take here because we lose the opposition. Then the black king would cut us on the side and we lose the game. That's why King H2 is the only move to make a draw, because if you take now, we are winning the opposition and everything is fine. We cannot be cut on the vertical line. So here, this is already draw, because okay, even if you give this and you take here, always King G2, and now black is not able to cut and promote the pawn. It's the same scenario here. If you play G3, H3, we know that those are the mine squares. If the one who hits them first is the one basically losing in general, but actually here it doesn't matter who hits them first. If the black king gets to G4, we are losing the game. That's why King F2 is important, to kick the king off this square, or let's say better this square, for example, here, and now you go here, because after here, here, and here, we can capture here, and everything is fine.
Yeah.
Last but not least, for example, this first defense, which Nikola suggested, looks almost like a draw, but the problem is the following pattern, that here, even though I win the opposition fight, the problem is that after this move and this move, I will not go here to stalemate you, but I sacrifice a pawn and once again win the opposition and win the game.
Yeah. Not to mention that you can play king h3 instead of king f3, and then there is no stalemate motives.
This I don't even... Here you mean king h3?
Right, 2 moves earlier.
2 moves earlier. This could be actually... here I can...
You can go to king g4.
Yes, I can also go
and
this
then go to h3. And
yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, yes. This promotion of the other pawn is a good pattern to have in mind.
It's a good pattern which you should always consider, and people forget in their calculations.
Yeah.
Okay, very well. Let's go to the next defense. In case you remember it from Masha's stream, you have to tell me and I will change it.
Okay. And for the record, guys, I lost literally through 3 drawn endgames against Sergey yesterday. So this is important in endgames. And not even in a simple endgame like this. It was... Yeah, I wasn't there for this. So we can look into it. I'm white.
You're black. Do you remember this?
No.
That's very good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, black basically, like if we estimate the position, black has 2 pieces against the rook, but you can see that white has a lot of pawns for it. And currently the problem is that those pawns should secure white a slight or a good advantage. And of course, in order to equalize one candidate to check is queen takes d4.
Okay.
And now I want you, Nikola, to find out whether you would play queen takes d4 or not. So unfortunately, you have to calculate, but on top of it, you have to estimate the position at the end.
Okay. All right. So we are playing queen d4, right? And then we are looking for other candidate moves.
I mean, my question is queen takes d4 or something else.
Okay. Hey, Bullet Mercenary. It's very good to see you. Good morning. Welcome to the stream. Hey, Safia, thank you for the follow. Very greatly appreciated. Thank you. Okay. So, thank you, Lali, for giving a shout out to Bullet Mercenary. All right, so there are no checks that are meaningful. Queen h2 is not meaningful. We have that one capture, which is what we want to consider. The real issue here is after we capture on d4, white plays rook d3. But then we have queen b2.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with queen b2 is that we can't capture on d4 because this is the sequence that looks scary. I hope I'm seeing this right. All right, queen d4, rook d3, queen b2, rook c6.
Rook c6. Well, rook c6 looks... I mean, if I go rook takes c6, I mean, I've always knight f8 to protect.
Yeah, I know. That doesn't work. Thank you. I'm getting seduced by funky stuff. So, all right. But again, queen d4, this queen b2, that's a natural sequence here.
Mm-hmm. What is the natural white's answering move?
Natural white's answer is we can double the
rooks.
We can double the rooks on d1.
Yes, so what is black's only move after rook d1?
Okay. well, we need to keep this bishop on this diagonal, so we need to play bishop e6. And the issue here is that after that, rook d8 takes, knight f8, and we have queen e8, and the queen cannot protect the knight because b4 is taken and a3 is defended. Yeah, so we can't take on d4.
So you think like that I would give you such a simple exercise?
No. So what's...
So after queen a8, what are the candidates for black?
Okay, after queen e8, what are the candidate moves for black? Okay. We have a check. Yes. So what is it? We have a check on c1, b1, or a1.
So which check makes a lot of sense here?
Yeah, because we can get to c5 if we get a check on c1.
Yes, but what is better than a check on, like to go back to c5? Just to do what?
There is a check on f4.
So we have a perpetual check.
Okay.
So queen a8 we should rule out.
Okay. So that doesn't work. Okay. All right. So we are basically evaluating the position after queen d4, rook d3, queen b2, rook d1, bishop e6, rook d8, takes, and takes, knight f8.
And now we have to find more candidate moves for white. I mean, in order not to have a perpetual check, we should either control the back rank or control the diagonal b8, h2.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So on this diagonal, there's a magic square, which is the square d6, as it has a double purpose, blocking the diagonal and attacking f8. So we should find moves which cause this threat, plus avoiding the perpetual check. What could be such a move in this position after knight f8?
All right. Well, fair enough. Well, that knight ain't going anywhere, right?
Nope.
So we have time to... All right, so we have a capture on c6, which is one candidate move, and then but that basically, which prevents the check on c1. But then there is a check on a1.
A check on e5.
And then check on e5. Okay. But the difference there is that we can then play g3, and there is no capture on f2.
Not now, but maybe I can get the kind of how to say dynamics in this position.
Yeah, I'm not immediately I'm not immediately threatening anything. Okay. All right, so let me think for a second.
I mean, after queen takes c6, in the worst case, I go queen takes a3. And this is a position where, well, I don't have problems because the a pawn is stripped of the board. The a pawn usually is the strongest part when we have a rook and a pawn against two pieces. The a pawn is always a problem.
Okay.
So we should not give the a pawn because this is our trump card for white.
Yeah, okay. All right, so what's the sequence here? we have a rook on d8.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a queen on a6.
Uh-huh.
I cannot get the pawn is still on c6, so I cannot bring it to d6, which would be the ideal move if I could lift it, right?
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Yeah. So, okay, so to get there, we need to basically, all right, very good. So we can play queen a5, which is also a mate threat.
But then it's a perpetual check again.
Yeah, that's the queen c1 thing. Okay.
I mean, we have to find a move which protects a3, which threats queen d6, and which avoids a perpetual check in some way.
Okay.
What queen move is left for that?
All right. All right. So the queen, we need to find a queen move in this position. That basically prevents the perpetual, and that's, we can play queen d3.
Yes, queen d3. So what is the only move after queen d3?
For black?
Yes, what is the only hope after queen d3?
Well, queen c1.
Yes, king h2, and now?
King f4 fails to queen g3.
Yes, and how is the endgame after the exchange of the queens?
We have an a pawn that's going to promote very quickly.
Yes, and this is a problem, like in the usual calculation, that people forget to understand how actually the position is. Some people say, like, okay, I have two pieces for the rook, and they start to count pawns, but they underestimate, especially if the queens are off the board, that actually this resulting endgame after queen g3 is absolutely hopeless for black. So for this reason, just to show it, queen takes d4 is a huge blunder, because queen d3 is very strong, protecting here, threatening here. You are forced now to change the queens. Otherwise, I mean, there's also rook takes f8 and queen d8 mate pattern. So, and here, this position, after this, you have to change. You will take h's to unpin, and my a pawn is very strong, especially against two pieces which are...
And bishop on d5 is... actually cannot really stop the pawn on a8 in time. I mean, because it has this, and how is that poor bishop gonna get to this diagonal?
Also, like, you have to play g6, and my king will cut you as well, and together with the king and the rook, I will dominate your pieces.
Yeah. Okay.
So instead of queen takes d5, which move do we have to play in order not to be worse? We have to find something quick and dynamic, because if white consolidates, then actually white has a decent, or let's say comfortable, advantage. So what could be a move here to cause some hassle?
Yeah, we can play c5 and resign. I'm kidding. Okay. Hey, Tatsu Fox, thank you for the following. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. All right, so queen d4 doesn't work. We don't have any other captures. So what is our motive here? There is this, white actually has some interesting threats, like d5 is interesting.
Could be at some point interesting, but just like, for example, like bringing, let's say, the queen to c4, and then push a4, a5, b4, and you will like be stuck here, and I have a very nice, let's say, space advantage as well, which means black has to be quick in like getting some counterplay, otherwise he will simply positionally be outplayed.
All right, so we basically need to attack. All right, so what's the best way for us to attack? The natural move to attack is to play knight f4.
Yes, and what happens if rook d1, let's say?
Rook d1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we can. Okay, we can play queen g6.
And if rook g3?
Rook g3. We can just. Can we just take on e4?
Yes, and basically knight f4 is the solution, but still like the main, I mean, like I gave you this exercise because, okay, first of all, it's a calculation of variation. Second of all, it's the aspect which often is forgotten, the role of two pieces against the rook and the a pawn, which people sometimes may underestimate because they know two pieces against the rook is a good thing, but there are exceptions.
Thank you, and Infialvi, thank you for the follow, and thank you, Atomic Morphe, for the cheer. Greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, I will not give you another defending exercise, even though it's a good one, but I will spare it for the next session. Okay, I will bring you a game. I don't know if you saw it on Masha's stream or not. In case you did, we will change it a step.
Okay.
Because why didn't it work? Wait a second. Sometimes.
No worries. Hey, Sabrina Hoja, thank you for this. After knight f4, if d5, we play queen g6, and then we are threatening a mate, and we're also threatening that pawn on e4. And hey, thank you, Jagi, very greatly appreciated. Thank you for the compliment. Okay. Oh no, I haven't seen this, so.
Okay, this is actually like a game between Yusupov with white and Grandmaster Peter Enders with black. He is from my hometown and he used to be one of the strongest DDR, GDR Grandmasters together with my dad and Rai Trishperek in the 80s, 90s.
Okay.
And before we suggest any move, I would like you to evaluate the position, who is better, black or white, or maybe it's equal, or maybe it's double-edged, and what are the pluses and minuses.
Okay. Should I flip
you're black.
The board? I'm black.
Yes, you're black, yes.
You're black, okay. All right, so material is equal. White has bishop pair. Black has slightly better pawn structure. White has the hanging pawns. Hey, Sepper, thank you for joining the stream. It's very good to see you here, my friend. Thank you. All right, so we have doubled rooks on e file. But I'm not sure. I mean, that's half open file. I'm not sure the pawn on e6 is a weakness. We have the rather interesting battery of b1, d3 on in this position. What's the best way to proceed here? Okay.
What color do you prefer, white or black?
It's a good question. I'm not sure, to be quite frank. You know, I would love to play knight d5, which I obviously can't and shouldn't. I can. All right, so I actually like the dynamic possibilities of the black position here, to be frank.
The dynamic possibilities of
Yeah,
black's position.
yeah, like this pawn is potentially weak. This bishop can be very strong once we get rid of this knight. These rooks are already positioned to challenge white's hanging pawns. And I don't see an easy way to, for white to undermine this knight on f6.
Well, I mean, one idea could be to play knight e5, then maybe knight g4 or knight e5, rook e3, rook g3. These are the kind of attacking aspects in this position.
Yeah. But, at some point, we don't need to continue. We don't need to continuously rely just on this knight on f6. We can play something like knight e7, knight f5, and basically obstruct that diagonal that way. Also, we can play knight d5, ask the question of this pawn, then play knight f4, and get rid of this bishop, and then at that point we can play g6.
Okay.
That's a bit.
Let's assume you play knight e7. What is the natural answer by white?
We can follow the plan you just outlined, which is knight e5.
Yes, knight e5. If now your next move is knight f5 to kill the diagonal, let's say.
Yeah.
Then, of course, like after knight f5, I mean, there is, for example, a move like bishop f4 interesting, or queen h3 interesting, or even like g4 patterns are in the position. So the knight on f5 is far away from
optimal defender, yes.
Safe. Despite that, what can happen after knight f5 in terms of tactics? What do you have to watch out for? What is the problem? And there is a problem, obviously.
You mean after the sequence and black to move, right? So it's knight e7, knight e5, knight f5.
Knight f5. What is the problem about knight f5 in this position?
All right, so g4.
G4, okay, G4 is not that bad. I can play knight h4 and maybe also have some kind of tactical tricks on knight e7, but there is something forcing after knight f5, which will get you a big surprise.
No, I know what you have in mind. It's knight f7.
Knight f7, rook e6, rook e6, and I think it may, like, okay, maybe there's bishop a2 check. It could be, or it feels like that it doesn't look good for white, for black.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it feels like that's a black is losing. So that's why knight e7 actually is not the best thing for black to do. What other moves do we have instead of? Okay.
All right. Okay, so basically, we don't have time for that whole reshuffling, and knight f7 is trouble. So what else do we have? All right.
I mean, basically, to think logical, your intuition is right. We need this bishop on the diagonal.
Yes.
The other thing is like that we have a problem that this knight on f6 in any case or at some moment can be deflected.
Yes.
The only weakness which black in this position has are those two things.
Yeah.
So basically, how can we, like, these are our, let's say, trouble puzzles.
Yeah.
What kind of maneuver can basically neutralize all these trouble puzzles?
Yeah.
And, well, helps the bishop, helps the square on h7, and make this knight free to go. And on top of it, if you can do it including threats, it would be helpful because we are on the defending side. And with each move we are doing, we should also create a threat.
Okay. Agreed. All right. So I don't think we have time to play against c4, so we are not going there. Okay. Jesus, that all right. I know exactly what you have in mind. We're talking about knight b8.
Yes, knight b8 is very strong. Okay, the difference just to show you between knight b8 and knight d7. If you go knight b8, knight e5, I have queen d5.
Yep.
And this, of course, is the problem is now that the best answer would be f4, but there is no time because of bishop a6.
Yeah, which is
this is the main difference. With a knight on e7, yes, with a knight on e7, there is f4. If you play, let's say, queen g3, in both variations, queen g3 is losing because of rook takes c3. There, it doesn't matter if you go knight e7 or knight b8, but the main difference is basically just that white doesn't have time for f4 because of bishop a6. That makes the main difference. So after knight b8, we prevent the strongest idea of white playing knight e5.
Wow. Okay. And of course, that's the type of moves that going back to the starting square is something that one is trained, not one doesn't consider.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And my goal is to reach f8 square, and then I can use this knight, for example, to go to d5 and do whatever I like. Because with a knight on f8, I keep more or less everything under control.
Yeah. I hear you. Okay.
So that's why, okay, knight b8 was played in the game, and okay, bishop a6 was a threat, and Yusupov, okay, he had not a big choice. He went for rook e3. Peter Anders followed his plan with knight d7, and now knight h4 was played, knight f8, all kind of logical, and rook h3. Now the question is, like, of course, if a move like rook h3 is played, our alarm bells have to ring because there is something on our king side. So what is the threat for white if black, for example, plays a natural move like rook c7 in order to double the rooks?
Okay. All right, so the natural threat is some sort of a sacrifice on h6.
So let's assume bishop takes h6, she takes h6, and then?
Okay, then we can even, I think even bishop can take on h6. Or we can give a check on g3 first.
So how white obtains a winning position after rook c7?
Okay. All right. All right, so we can all right, so let me think for a second. We want Thank you, Kombanili Dizzy. Thank you for the follow. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thank you for the follow. Very greatly appreciated. Okay. All right. So all right. So white can play knight f5.
But then I take.
Then you take, and we don't have enough ammunition. Okay. We can take on h6.
She takes h6.
Okay. And then we can give a check on g3.
With
the rook.
The rook?
Yeah, well, the queen is on.
King h8.
Okay, then we can play queen d2.
Knight h7.
We can. Sorry guys, I'm just gonna reply real quick. Okay, so knight h7, we can actually now take on h6.
Okay, rook g8.
Okay. And we need to figure out how to deflect one of the knights, right? Okay. Okay, so...
By the way, after queen d2, I have something much stronger than knight h7. Yeah. Even though after knight h7, queen takes h6, I have queen f8, which is better than rook g8, I just thought. But I can also play knight g8. I mean, you're very close, just like you have two candidate moves in your sequence. It's rook g3 check, or it's queen d2 immediately. What is the difference between those?
Queen d2 is... Okay, yeah, queen d2 is a better move.
It's a much stronger move because you avoid a lot of things and you keep your rook on the h file.
Yep.
Which is like indirectly also hitting on h7. So I mean, like even for example, like okay, you take, I'll just show to check this, and I go king here, you give a check here, knight h7, and I have ideas like this. I mean, like the rook is still here, and that makes a huge difference.
Yes. Yeah.
So yes, for this reason, Black played something else, and now it is your turn to find the best move in the position. And I give you a warning: don't trust your automatism.
Okay, I'm actually gonna think about the position. I just need to.
Which means whatever candidate moves you take. Okay.
Yeah. In other words, don't trust your instincts. I hear you. Okay. All right.
Okay, Nikola. So now we have to defend. And we know that the active defense is always the first thing to check.
Okay, so...
So once again, we have to defend against bishop takes h6 threat. And we know that usually the first thing we should try to find is the active defense, because the active defense doesn't allow our opponent to improve the position.
Yeah, all right.
So now let's collect moves which are kind of active and which more or less would stand for an active defense. And I warn you, don't exclude even moves you would exclude immediately, because you might be like misguided by your own intuition.
Sure. Okay. Hey, CM Rui, thank you for the follow. Okay. All right. So, no checks, no meaningful captures. We need to defend h6. Obvious candidate move is knight g4, right? That's an active move.
What does knight g4 threat? Well, but I mean, like, does it cause a threat?
It's not an immediate threat, no. But
so I mean, like, that's why I mean, like, after knight g4, hypothetically speaking, white has time to do whatever he wants.
Yeah, no. As I said, I'm listing candidate moves.
Okay.
All right. We can be cheeky and threaten. Okay. Well, we can say, come and mate me and play g5.
Oh, g5 is a move which probably, like, in this way, I would trust my intuition. I would say, like,
yeah, no, I know.
This doesn't work on a long run.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work. All right, so we can play something along the lines of queen c6, which really doesn't threaten anything because c3 is double defended. Okay. Okay. You can play knight d5, which threatens knight f4.
Yes, knight d5 is the second strongest move in this position. Then probably white has to play bishop d2. You can play knight f4, and the position is still kind of double-edged. This was, of course, the best alternative next to the move which was played in the game, which is a lot stronger.
Okay. A lot stronger.
Okay, which move do you exclude on the spot because you would believe this is not working? But if it was working, you would love to play it.
No, I'm looking at knight h5. And I'm just trying to figure out whether that works. Hey, Shining J, thank you for the follow. Very greatly appreciated. Okay, so we're basically have the same knight f4 threat. We're not threatening anything on c3. But knight h6, that doesn't... All right, so our biggest threat is bishop h6. Second biggest threat is that mate on... yeah, I think I know what to do here. Hold on. It all disappears if this battery is dead, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know what to play. Yep. I know. Bishop e4.
Okay. Chat is very strong as well. Okay, bishop e4. I mean, in general, like, of course, I should have maybe asked you this at the beginning of the position, is like if we get rid of these bishops and we exchange the bishops and the queen, we have just always huge positional advantage because the dynamic counterplay is getting lost on this board.
Yes.
Here, bishop e4 has a tactical reason, but it's very hard to consider this move because you have this automatism that I just get two pieces like for the rook, and you don't see any benefits in it. In the game, actually, white took on e4, queen b5 maybe was a better try, but then after the exchange, I mean, white has nothing from dynamic counterplay, and positionally, he's very bad. So he took on e4, queen takes e4. Next move, Nikola.
Okay. White has bank rank issues.
I mean, if you play bishop e4, you have to see the continuation here. Otherwise,
I know. Okay, so well, that's my big problem, Lizzie, as you know, is I play too much on instinct, and instinct fails. It's not all right. So I'm playing rook c3 here.
Oh well, rook c3,
Nikola, loses on the spot. Okay, yeah,
it's a bit too much material, I would say.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm just gonna take on d4.
So yes, knight queen takes d4. I mean, this move, if you play bishop e4 and you don't see this move, you cannot play bishop e4.
No, I saw it. It's just I assumed I had multiple options.
Okay, I mean, in the game after queen takes d4, Yusupov took and played bishop c2, only move. And now how black was winning after bishop c2.
All right, so we are basically okay. Huh. Hey, Samit, good to see you. Thank you. All right. All right, so what are the candidate moves? These bishops are obvious targets. And there is a bank rank issue. How do we take advantage of that? Hold on.
Also always check the dependencies of pieces.
Yeah, all right. So if this knight, if this rook was not, hey, mayonnaise, thank you for the follow, was not defending c3, I'm winning on the spot. Ah, nice. g5.
g5? But then I have knight f3
with a threat. That doesn't work. Okay.
The counterattack.
Yeah, okay. Well, I want to deflect the rook.
Yes, and what you have to calculate?
Deflect the rook, instead of playing g5, I can take on h4. And then after rook h4, I played this. And actually, can white even defend the mate? It can, yeah. It's going to play bishop.
Well, he can just move one bishop, but I mean, you get the bishop back and you have 2 pawns up and win the game.
2 pawns up and then winning. Okay, yeah, that's
yes, that's the easy sequence.
Yeah, but it's an easy sequence, but I always choose this wrong sequence first, which is a problem. Okay.
But okay, here is something more, let's say, fighting, like instead of queen takes d4, which was chosen by Yusupov, he could have tried queen e1. And now after queen e1, there is only one winning sequence, but I warn you, this is not simple at all. And I give you a hint, you should first collect the candidate moves and then you will realize you may have 2.
Okay, very good. Okay. All right, no checks. I do have a capture on c3. That's not significant, or is it? All right, so let's think about this. Yeah, I have capture on f2, I have capture on h4, none of that's meaningful. So rook c3, there is bishop b2, rook d1, queen d1, king f1. I'm not gaining anything out of that, and then bishop c3, and then that. Okay, so that's not it. Okay.
So what are the two candidates here in this position?
The obvious candidate is queen d1. Right.
Okay, and the other candidate move?
I was looking at rook c3, but that doesn't seem to work.
Then there's bishop b2, I think, and we lose on the spot.
Yes.
Or like, it's not good, let's say.
All right, so I think actually it's the same sequence, right? It's queen.
Kind of.
It's king d1 or queen a4.
Yes, and one is with king f1 included and one without, and you have to understand what is better for you.
Yeah, I can actually, we're combining the two, right? After queen d1, you have to play king f1. And after king f1, I can play queen a4, and I'm threatening this. I'm threatening rook d1, and I don't see how you're going to defend this.
So but okay, like let's say like you choose one option. In what option basically white has a defense, and in what option white doesn't have a defense, and what could be the defending chance after queen a4? The only one.
Okay. After queen d1?
Yes, let's say we play queen d1, king f1, and queen a4. What is the best try here for white? Which move?
Something that obstructs the rook from coming to d1, right?
Yes.
And it would be rook or bishop to d3.
This is one option. What is the other option?
Bishop d2.
Yes. So, and now you have to understand, like, why do you believe the king needs to be on f1 and not on g1?
Because we have checks on b5 or c4.
Yes, so concrete.
And also queen d1 there now is mate.
So let's say after queen d1, king f1, queen d2, I played bishop d2. How you exploit that?
Okay, I'm gonna take on d2.
And have then queen b5 check. Right.
And then queen b5 check. I'm collecting bishop on b1, and I'm up material significantly.
Okay, so the difference is like that here I have bishop d2 and there is no check.
I don't have queen b5.
Yes. Okay, and in this moment I would still like to make a comment to Fearless Mustang. I'm sure he was in my Masha stream and he saw it, and if he already knows this by heart, I think he should give the chance to others to solve it.
Okay. Yes, Fearless Mustang don't.
I mean, like, he gives the solution in 1 minute, which means he saw it on Masha's stream. That's why. I mean, otherwise, not even a super grandmaster can figure it out in 1 minute.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Jagged is Jax. Thank you for the good wishes. I don't know. There are several Alexes, but thank you. I don't know which Alex you have in mind, but thanks. can be Alex Lopez, it can be Alexandra Botes, and so it could even be Alexandra Kostyanyuk. So, but thanks.
There are too many Alexes, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's quickly go to something very short in terms of something where you don't have to calculate, but where you have to understand.
No worry, Fearless. Thank you for being here. All right.
Okay, this is like some kind of relaxation for you.
Oh,
what is better? Queen takes c3 or bishop takes c7?
Okay. Hold on. So if you take bishops on c7, all right.
This is no tactics. This is understanding.
Okay. Well, this bishop on f4 is fairly strong, though this bishop on c7 might have a meaningful career on e6. On the other hand, this bishop has mostly been neutralized. I don't see any tactics. And for what's worth, the queen on c7 is pinned, so for potential b5 move. And we can proceed with minority attack on the queen side. And we have an extra tempo because of the queen on c7. On the other hand, we are going to end up having a battery, which may or may not be useful as long as the knight is f3. On the other hand, dark squares along black king are, we can play put the bishop on h6 and start attacking. Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't. All right, so I'm probably going to take on c7 and then take on a c3, mostly because I don't like the sequence of queen c3, knight b5, and then we're aiming for c4.
Yes, you're right. So basically, like if we keep the knight on the board, then we have always to worry about the c4 square and maybe even the e4 square. Yeah. That's why here bishop takes c7 and queen takes c3 is a lot stronger. If queen takes c3, then bishop d6 is quite strong. In case you take, I have knight b5 and knight takes d6. Yeah. If you don't take, then okay. I mean, like my rook is now active, my bishop is active, and I still have at some point ideas. And okay, here already like black is slightly better.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, this was an easy one.
Thank you.
Now comes a bit of the harder one. This is your relaxation time, Nikola. No calculation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's go for this.
Sepper, one thing I learned is that easy is a very relative
term.
Yeah.
Okay, Nikola. It's white to move. And you see we are back in the Carlsbad structure as well.
Yeah, my favorite. Haha. No.
Do you play it with white or with black? Probably not, huh?
No.
Okay.
I play e4 and I play King's Indian as
so
block.
You don't get these structures
so I don't
ever.
get these structures, no, but that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have an isolated pawn for black on d5. We have same thing on a2, not that it's equal. I'm evaluating the position, right, Lizzie? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Or am I looking at candidate moves? Well, I need to do.
No, I mean, like you just have to be like very precise here in order to get nice and long-term, especially long-term advantage. Even so, of course, here are different kind of moves in this position, which would still like having white a better position. But here's a sequence actually, which from the practical point of view is very annoying for black. Even so, if you put this position into the computer would suggest plenty of moves, but I want, like, let's say, the best practical decision here for white.
Okay. All right, so all pieces are on the board. We have the material is equal. Okay, so I mean, some natural sequence would be to improve your worst piece, which in this position is rook f1, which is play rook c1, but that's not.
I mean, this move is for sure very strong.
Yeah, but that's not why you were showing me this position, so that's not where we want to go.
It's not about this, no.
No. All right. We can take on g6 and play knight e5, which is, which then we're sacrificing the bishop pair, and the bishop on 3-3 is very strong. But we have a huge outpost on the e5, and that bishop, I'm not sure how easy it would be for black to take advantage of the white's light squares in our position. So that's kind of okay. Another option is to try to play knight a4 to put the play rook c1 and put the knight on c5.
Let me ask you something different. What is like a very typical plan here in for black in this position in order to basically facilitate his life in general? One of the typical patterns for black in the call spot structure. Which move?
Yeah, that's knight e4.
That's knight e4. I mean, like usually, like he's very happy if he reaches a move like knight e4 because it will give him some kind of more dynamic chances, especially if the pawn is taking on e4. And well, then the knight could also get at some point to d6, maybe not immediately, but this way it makes his life easier.
Yeah, okay. So so one way to prevent that is to take on f6.
Very good.
Okay. And then that basically means that pawn is parked on e5. And then we can figure out how to get a knight on c5 and or e5.
Yes, and you have to basically just, sorry.
So are we gonna, yeah.
So bishop takes f6 is a very good practical choice because I never have to worry about knight e4 anymore. And anyway, these two pieces are just very stupid.
Yeah, which is why bishop g6 is not a good move. Okay, so now what?
Now, in order to hit on those two, you have to basically do another step, which is not logical in some way, but here in this position, actually, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, which is to remove the defender. So we're going to play bishop b5.
Yes, and this sequence, I mean, if you ask the computer in this position, he will also give you like rook fc1 as a very strong move. There's no doubt about this. Sure. But this sequence is just from the practical point of view for like black very annoying because like I have advantage forever because I will just hit on the c6 pawn, which later will develop, or if you protected, let's say, then b7, d5 is weak. And this gives me just advantage without any risk, without anything which could ever come up from the dynamic point of view for black.
Okay.
Very good. Let's go back to dynamics, I would say. And let's see, because since we are in the topic, why not to keep on going?
I actually missed the raid by Mark Esserman. My bad. He'll kill me. I'll send him a text later. I'm pretty sure he's no longer in chat. Thanks, Mark. Quick shout out to I am Mark Esserman, my dear friend and a fellow streamer. If you haven't already, please give Mark a follow. His streams are very instructive. Okay.
Now you're black in this position.
Okay.
The next one.
All right, let me flip.
And surprise, surprise, we have the Karlsbad structure again. Okay. Find the best sequence of moves in this position.
Okay. All right, so we have this annoying knight on a4 that wants to jump on c5. We have this somewhat weak pawn on c7 that we need to protect. If we play c6, we have committed ourselves to weak dark squares for the rest of our life. Okay, so we can't do that. Yeah, we can play c5, escargot 08, but escargot t08, but that kind of is loses the pawn.
Does it?
It doesn't.
Well, actually, like I didn't even see that it does lose a pawn. Like, I mean, like, well, actually, like, if I say something now, I will give you a hint. So I'll say nothing.
Okay, very good. All right, so c5, we take. 4 attackers, 3 defenders, right? But then what else do we have here? All right, but we're playing, so, okay. But we can chase away. Okay, I got you. All right, so so c5 we still want to play, but we need to chase one of the defenders, which we do by playing b5 and then c5.
So how do you start in this position? With c5 or with b5?
I need to start with c5. Well, if I start with b5, the knight is gonna
go to c5, yes, and that would be horrible.
Yes.
So you play c5.
Yeah.
D takes c5 and
now what? Okay. How do we chase the knight here? Oh yeah, we can play b5 because the pawn is pinned.
Yes, b5 is a very strong sequence and the only one which is good here.
Okay, and what if? Oh yeah, and and white cannot take with the bishop or the knight because there is b6. So yeah.
Yeah, so b5 was played in the game.
Yeah.
Now after b5, obviously knight c3 has to be played. And I mean, like, I was confused because I thought like knight takes c5 was also possible. I didn't even see that it was not protected, but I thought like even, let's say, if we are like able to exchange normally, then actually like when you play with an isolated pawn and you don't have many pieces on the board, you just happen to have a weakness later on in the end game. And for example, like this knight against this bishop to end up with is a kind of horrifying scenario in general.
Yeah.
So yes, b5 very important. Knight c3 was played. Knight takes c5, knight d4, and now black pushed b4, and knight d1 was chosen in the game. And yes, after knight d1, what could be here a strong move for black?
Okay. All right, so we have, let's think in terms of candidate moves. We don't have any checks. We have a capture on d3, which I think serves to white's advantage, I think, because it loses the pawn and so on and so forth. We can, okay, what we can do is, I think we can play knight e4.
That's one good option, but there is something even stronger than knight e4 here.
Okay.
Slightly stronger, but more, let's say, future orientated. Let's put it this way.
Future, yeah, okay.
And no tactics, like it's future orientated move. It's a move which makes a lot of sense in certain terms.
Okay. Well, there is a b3 thing, but that looks like it's a little bit premature. We cannot move the knight on f8. I mean, are we doing attack and pushing a5? We can do that. I don't want to play knight d7. I can also play... All right, so let's see. The problem with... All right, so I'm really like this b3 move. I just don't see how it works or whether it works.
I mean, like black actually already has a kind of initiative, and you think about sacrifices, which you may not even need in this position because, okay, look at white's pieces. With a sacrifice, you commit yourself to be precise.
Yeah.
And from the practical point of view, unless you see a forcing sequence which is securing you material or a win, don't sacrifice in a better position because you're forced then to be precise. In a better position, just improve your pieces slowly, and then opportunities automatically will arise. This is just a practical advice from myself because I did the same mistake and I lost many games in winning positions because I had the urge to sacrifice.
Okay, so we can play knight g6.
What does a knight want on g6?
To get to e5.
And if I push f4?
Okay, then
you're thinking in a right direction, but there's something much more subtle than knight g6.
We're talking about knight d7.
Not knight d7, no.
Okay.
The strongest piece is that one, right? On d4.
Yes.
So at some point we would like to chase it because this is a knight which gives stability. The weakest piece in our position is this one. So if you just make 1 + 1, what is the right move here?
Okay.
We want to chase this knight at some moment. Where, on which square will we chase this knight?
Oh, I see what you're saying. You wanna do this sequence.
Bishop, or well, not with this knight, but maybe with the
The
other
other
knight. But
night. Yeah,
bishop
yeah, yeah.
d7 is a very strong move because, okay, I have bishop a4 ideas, provoking b3,
Yep, yep,
weakening
yep,
this
yep,
square,
yep, yep, yep,
maybe
yep.
even bishop b5 at some point,
I
who
see
knows?
that. Yep.
Also, like knight e6 is at least now a motif. So this move is actually, like, from the positional point of view, the strongest, even though knight e4 is working too, just it's not a move which is future orientated in a way.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
And I actually have a meeting in 7 minutes.
All right.
So, yeah, unfortunately.
Yes, I will not make another exercise for you, which you will solve on the spot, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Okay, Nikola.
Thank you, Lizzie. Very greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for being here. It was a lot of fun. My next stream is on Friday at 6 a.m. Then we're gonna have Open Field Media Arena on Saturday and bullet match against Alessia Santeramo on Sunday at noon, and my best losses on Monday will be dedicated to my match against Grandmaster Sergei Karyakin. Thank you, Lizzie. That was always is good. So who should we raid? Do you guys have any suggestions? Who is streaming now? Let's see. Okay, who can actually use some of our support? I have never raided Alexandra Samaganova, who is a national master for Kyrgyzstan, and she's a great supporter and a great friend. So I'm gonna send you guys her way. Give her a quick follow, and I will see you guys on. I will see you guys on Friday morning. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, the raid is going your way in 10 seconds. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sepper, for being here. See you, everybody, soon. Thank you, STCTC75, for the follow. And raid is on its way. Thank you. Thank you, Elisabeth.
Welcome.